And put that up. Okay, last night I was at a nightclub and I slipped and fell twice in what was most likely alcohol and fractured my wrist in 2 places. This was not due to dancing or being unable to walk, but merely a slip and fall twice. The first time I slipped, 2 people helped me up, but due to them pulling me up off the ground so quickly, page 2, the second they let go of my hands, I slipped again and fractured my wrist. Several people suggested I take this up with the nightclub for the pain and suffering and medical expenses. Is this something I can do? And that's from Albert. Albert, that's a great question. You know, like we usually recommend, you probably do want to talk to a lawyer because you know, slip and fall cases, especially in the state of Florida, are very fact specific. You talk about slipping on a substance that was on the floor that is not supposed to be on the floor. That is something that we refer to as a transient foreign substance. And the law in Florida is that in order to bring a claim against a property owner or a premises owner, you have to be able to prove that this was a substance that was on the floor for a sufficient amount of time and that the owner did not do anything about it. They knew about it or they should have known about it. And they didn't do anything. Now, the fact that we're talking about a nightclub, I imagine that this is probably a club where people are maybe out on the floor dancing. People probably do have their drinks. And so those are the types of facts that we would typically look at in a case like this, because if you are letting people go out on a dance floor and you're letting them take their drinks out there, it is pretty foreseeable, I would think, that there could be some spills and slips, and it would require that owner to go out and do something to mitigate against those hazards, because oftentimes it's dark, lights may be flashing. There's all sorts of things going on that could create a liability scenario. And of course, if you can establish liability, then it moves on to the damages side of it, which, you know, you're talking about a broken wrist, that's a pretty serious injury. So yeah, I would definitely reach out, talk to a lawyer, you know, and we'll see what we can do. Johnny, you know, you're in Baton Rouge. I know Louisiana is known for people liking to have a good time.
Right.
Right. So what's your experience been in a situation like this?
The law is very similar in Louisiana as it is here. One thing you need to know in this particular case is who created that hazard. Were they properly staffed? Did the person who fell, Albert, you know, did you know that that slippery surface was there and then you stepped in it anyway? So it's very fact specific. Louisiana law is the same, but I agree with Les, you need to talk to a lawyer to get down to the detail of the facts of what happened and do some investigation, because you may indeed have a claim. You know,
another thing I was thinking about, Johnny, while you were answering, you know, a lot of times these clubs have in-house surveillance video. And a lot of businesses, grocery stores have a similar setup, but oftentimes those videos are set up on a loop. Yep. To where if you do not request that video, you don't put in you send them a letter putting them on notice to preserve it, that video can disappear. And sometimes it's a few days, sometimes it's a week, sometimes it's 30 days. So that's another reason to reach out to somebody, because a lawyer can put that property owner on notice and have them preserve that video. And that can be very valuable because, you know, as they say, a picture's worth 1,000 words. It'll show you exactly what happened if they captured that incident.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. And also, too, just realize every claim that's out there, you've got a team of lawyers trying to either help you or a team of lawyers trying to defeat your claim. So the best advice is to contact a lawyer as quickly as possible so you can do what Les suggested, reach out and ask for surveillance footage just to protect whatever's there that may help your claim.
Right, right. So again, these are the types of questions we're taking tonight. Albert, thank you for that email. If you have a question and want to give us a call, 850-392-1544, or again, that email is lawcall@WMBB.com. Now, Johnny, we do personal injury, and that's primarily what you do as well, correct? So is there a specific area that you specialize in? Is it mostly car wrecks, truck wrecks? Tell us a little bit about your practice.
We handle a lot of typical auto accident cases, which also includes 18-wheeler accidents as well, but a lot of motor vehicle accident cases.
Okay, and you're there on that, I guess it's I-12.
I-10 and I-12.
I-10 and I-12 corridor, so you probably see a lot of heavy truck accidents, heavy commercial motor vehicles, yeah.
Baton Rouge has a lot of 18-wheelers traveling through there all the time.
Right, so let's talk about heavy truck cases, commercial motor vehicle cases for a second. Do you treat those like a regular run-of-the-mill car wreck?
No.
Or what's different? Tell the folks how you approach those types of cases.
Well, there's so many regulations that regulates what 18-wheeler companies, commercial truck drivers can do and can't do. And so part of that investigation is start looking into what kind of regulations applies to this particular driver, this particular truck, and see how those regulations can, you know, whether they were followed or not, to enhance the value of your claim on your injury case if you're in an accident with one of them.
Right, right. The trucking industry is very heavily regulated, and you know, and it could be anything from driver qualifications. Distracted driving is a very big thing. Oftentimes with commercial motor vehicles, you know, those men and women, for the most part, I think are out there trying to do a very good job and try to be safe. But you always have those outliers that are, you know, decide that, hey, I've got it set on cruise control, going down I-10, going down I-12. They got a movie pulled up on their iPad, and they're just, you know, they got their drink and they're just not paying attention.
That's right.
And obviously, not only is that a violation of the law, that's a violation of federal regulations. We do a lot of the same thing. Again, you have to get into those cases very early in order to find out that information most of the time, because, you know, memories fade, evidence has the ability to just walk away sometimes if you don't preserve it.
That's right.
And having facts nailed down like that early can oftentimes be the difference between making a recovery or maybe not getting as much as you thought, or even losing the case. So, you know, that's something that you really, especially in a catastrophic case, the more serious the injury, the more likely it is that you're going to really need some legal assistance in a case like that. So, so truck accident cases are a big thing. Around here we see a lot of boating accidents as well. What's y'all's experience on that?
We do have a lot of boating accidents. There's a lot of people on the water in Louisiana, so unfortunately this is the time of year that you see them, and
right.
You really got to get on those early, start investigating those cases before the evidence disappears very quickly.
Right, and also with a boating accident, sometimes you have to deal with maritime issues. There could be some federal laws that come into play that might or might not limit your ability to claim certain damages. Again, it's, you know, it seems like it doesn't matter if it's a car wreck, a truck wreck, a boat wreck. Getting a lawyer involved early is really the best thing to do.
I agree 100%. Lawyers are going to be able to start that investigation process and try to gather any evidence that's available before it disappears.
Right. So another one of the big questions we always get is, I work for a living, and I've got bills, and I've got a mortgage, and I've got to buy my kids food and clothes for school and things like that. I can't pay for a lawyer. I can't afford it.
Right.
Fortunately, in our situation, we can help them out in that regard.
That's right. So as personal injury lawyers, like in Florida, like in Louisiana, we handle all of our cases on contingency fee basis. So we are not paid until we recover a settlement or a trial verdict for our clients. So it really does not cost the client any money to reach out to us to see if we can investigate the case. And if it's not a good case, we're going to tell you and let it go. But if it's a good case, we're going to invest the resources to make sure you are adequately represented to take your case as far as we need to go to get you the justice you deserve.
Right. One of the things that, and I started out my career doing insurance defense work, where I was hired by insurance companies or large corporations to defend them in personal injury cases. So I've seen it from both sides. I've been on the defense side. The last 13 years I've been doing it on the plaintiff side, representing people who are injured. And so I've always had I feel like a very unique view of things, because I understand the game from both sides. But one of the big things I've noticed, I just got a buzz mayor. I lost my train of thought there, because I think we have an email question that came through. Let's go ahead and put that up, and I'll pick up my thought here in a second. Okay, you say you're a personal injury lawyer. Can you define what qualifies as personal injury? It seems like a simple question. That's from Karen, but that's a good question.
Yeah, it's a great question.
What is personal injury?
Yeah, Karen, any sort of accident that causes a person an injury is a personal injury claim. The question is, did you cause or contribute to your own injury? So if someone injured you in some fashion, whether it's a car wreck, whether it's a slip and fall, whether you're in a retail establishment and something falls on you, any sort of accident that causes an injury is a personal injury claim.
Right, and just because it's a personal injury claim, it doesn't mean that your damages are limited to just the injury aspect of it. In Florida, and I'm sure it's the same way in Louisiana, the personal injury claim encompasses not just the actual injury itself, but all damages that flow from that injury. So if you break your arm or you break your leg and you incur medical expenses, those are personal injury damages. If you miss time from work, those are personal injury damages. If you have future medical expenses that are likely to be incurred later on down the road, even if your case is going to be over at some point down the road, you may need another procedure, those are personal injury damages. And also the pain and suffering, which is a huge aspect. I mean, in my experience, the personal or the pain and suffering is really where the value of the claim lies.
Sure. The anxiety, the depression, all of those things factor into what drives up the value of the case. And in Louisiana, and I think Florida law has the same thing, there are certain cases that you can actually get punitive damages for, which are damages on top of your other damages for punishing someone for doing something wrong. In Louisiana, car wreck cases is typically where the person who caused a wreck was drunk.
Right. It's the same thing in Florida. Usually if you are intoxicated and you cause a wreck and you injure somebody, your insurance will still cover you for what they call compensatory damages. So if somebody has to incur medical expenses, lost wages, pain and suffering, those are damages that are typically covered by your insurance contract if you cause that. But if you're intoxicated, you can be subjected to punitive damages for your conduct, and those are not covered by insurance. And so it creates a pretty interesting situation and a dynamic. And again, I cannot reiterate enough, that is one of the reasons why you get a lawyer, because if you are injured by somebody who is intoxicated and you call the insurance company and you tell them what happened, they're not going to tell you.
That's correct. They're going to say, we don't pay for that.
They're going to say, we don't pay for that. And you have no idea that there is a special dynamic that is created.
That's right.
Because an insurance company's obligation is to protect their insured.
That's right.
Right? So they have to protect their insured, but their insured is going to be likely responsible for damages that they do not cover.
That's right.
And so, we can oftentimes step in and we can say, hey, look, you're lowballing us here. You're only offering X amount of dollars. Your policy is this much. Hey, guess what? If you don't meet our demands and you don't take this case seriously, we're going to sue your insured, and your insured is going to be subjected to punitive damages. That really has an ability to put the insurance company in a pretty tight spot sometimes.
That's right. And I think any accident case you ought to seek advice from a lawyer, but especially in cases where the accident was caused by a drunk driver. Number one, we want to get those people off the street. We have Uber, we have other ride-lift services. They shouldn't be out there.
That's
but
right.
If they're going to be out there, we're going to look to punish them, which is the punitive damages, and go get a lawyer to help you, because that's going to further help keep society safe.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Those are great words of wisdom to take us into our first break. We will be back in a couple minutes. Again, give us a call if you have a question, and we'll see you in a couple. Hey, welcome back to Lawcall again. We're taking your calls live on the air. We are talking all about injuries with my friend Johnny Jobert from Louisiana. If you have a question, give us a call, 850-392-1544, or you can send us an email at lawcall@wmbb.com. And I do believe we actually did get another email while we were on the break. Let's go ahead and put that up. Okay, I was involved in a car accident. It is not disputed that the other party was at fault. My medical bills are $4,500. Lost wages are $4,500. The orthopedic surgeon has assessed a 5% impairment rating on my lower back injuries. I am a 43-year-old male. What would be a reasonable settlement? And that's from Dean. You know, Johnny, aside from how long is this going to take, the second question I get most often is, what is my case worth?
Absolutely.
And you always got to give them that lawyer answer,
That's
which
right.
is?
No idea.
It depends.
It depends.
It really
You know,
depends. So,
that's right.
So go through kind of the analysis. When we're talking about value in cases, obviously medical expenses and lost wages are an element of damages. But again, like we talked about earlier, those aren't the only damages that can be recovered. Right. So how do you go about valuing a case? And I have a feeling we probably go about it about the same way.
Yeah, when you evaluate these cases and the injuries in these cases, you got to look at how does that injury have an impact on you. So for example, if you have a low back pain and you have a 5% impairment rating, but you're able to do your job with no problems and your life is pretty much normal, well, that case won't be as valuable as someone who has a 5% rating that's making them change their career or completely do something direct opposite of what they were doing before, which enhances that, you know, pain and suffering, anxiety, depression that we were kind of talking about earlier. All those things drive the value of the claim. So it's really hard to put a value on a case based on just what was put up there by Dean, because we really got to know who he is, what is he doing, how does this accident and the injuries from that accident impact his day-to-day life.
Right, and I can tell you, this actually kind of leads me back to the question I was answering the process when we got the email that came in, and I completely broke off of that, talking about when I was an insurance defense lawyer. When I first started out, you know, people used to kind of say, well, you got $4,500 in medical bills and $4,500 in lost wages. That's $9,000. We'll give you $9,000 and we'll give you another $2,000 for your pain and suffering. Sign this release.
Right.
And some people will do that. And they think, hey, great, I got an extra $2,000. But what happens?
Well, you know, you
sign a release and?
Yeah, when you sign the release, it's over. And there's been some studies, and I haven't seen them in a while because the insurance company wants to keep them quiet, but I've seen studies where it said that, you know, clients with lawyers helping them in their injury cases can typically get clients about 9 times more than if the client can get on his own. So just that, if that is true, then you would want to hire a lawyer, a personal injury lawyer, every single time if we can create that value. And we really do see that a lot, where clients come in with a low ball offer, and then we take it and do the things that we need to do to enhance the claim and get the claim in the proper position, and then we tend to get a lot more money than the insurance company ever offered. Right.
It really is a multiplier when you have a lawyer involved. And so, you know, you think about it on one hand, well, I'm going to have to pay a lawyer a contingency fee, which, you know, in Florida, the standard contingency fee is 1/3 of the recovery before a lawsuit is filed. And that can be a lot of money. And I certainly understand people saying, well, you know, why don't I just do it on my own? And save myself 1/3 of the overall recovery. But what they don't realize, you mentioned that study, I've seen similar studies in the past, it is definitely a multiplier to where even if you end up having to pay an attorney a contingency fee, you still typically end up getting a lot more money you know, for your injuries than you would if you try to go it alone. And that's simply because this is what we do for a living.
Yeah.
We know how to file lawsuits, we know how to try cases, we know the process, we understand the claims process, we understand how to read insurance policies, you know, and not just that, but one of the big, and this is really a big trap if you try to represent yourself. What happens when you make a recovery and you're on Medicare?
Yeah.
Or you're on Medicaid, or maybe you're in the military and you have TRICARE? You know, making a recovery can trigger certain obligations if you have these types of benefits, even a private health insurance policy.
Right.
There are certain obligations that can arise if you make a recovery that if you don't practice in this area, you may find yourself on the receiving end of a lawsuit because you impaired somebody's right to a recovery. Why don't you, talk about that?
That's correct. And you know, Medicaid, Medicare, if you don't pay them back, they're going to suspend your benefits at some point, and then you could owe the government money back for not paying them like you're supposed to. So there are a lot of pitfalls. You're exactly right.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing with any injury claim is just realize once you submit that claim to the insurance company, they have a team of lawyers doing everything they can to defeat your claim or minimize it. Where a plaintiff lawyer, a personal injury lawyer, is going to do everything they can to increase the value of that claim. And so where we bring value that oftentimes exceed what we're charging in a fee is that we know what these cases are worth, we know what a broken bone's worth, we know what a herniated disc is worth, and if you're doing this on your own, you have no experience, the adjuster who you're dealing with or the defense lawyer is never going to tell you that, hey, I just paid somebody else $100,000 for that case, but I'm only going to offer you $10,000. Right. You don't have anybody fighting for you. So the best advice is get a lawyer, get a personal injury lawyer, and get that lawyer as soon as you can after an accident.
Right, and if you do end up having to try the case, I mean, you have a constitutional right to represent yourself, but there's an old saying that the person who represents himself has a fool for an attorney, and those are very true words. And it doesn't mean that you're dumb if you do it or you're a stupid person. It just means that there are so many hoops and hurdles, just basic rules of evidence that you have to comply with in order to get certain facts and exhibits entered into evidence. That's something that we go to law school, we go to school for a long period of time to be able to practice and have a license, and we have to sit for a bar exam, and we have to take continuing education, so we're up on the latest legal trends, and it's a lot of work. And so, but that work is what offers you that value by going with an attorney.
And also, too, hiring an experienced lawyer that knows what they're doing is going to make your life a lot easier. It's going to make the case go a lot quicker. Right. You're going to get a better recovery for it. And then the only thing you have to do is worry about going to the doctor and getting better, get over your injuries. So you're not worrying about talking to adjusters. And one thing that we hear all the time from clients that the reason they hire us, they call the adjuster and the adjuster never calls them back. Right. Well, the adjuster will typically call the lawyer back a little bit quicker. So hiring a lawyer is going to take out some frustration, move your case a little bit quicker, and you're going to get a better resolution without any cost to you until we recover the case. Yeah,
that's what I tell my clients. The number one thing is all you need to focus on is getting your treatment and trying to get your life back together so you can move on and let us handle all the claims aspects. So, all right, we're going to take our last break for the evening. Again, phones are still open, so give us a call if you have a question. Otherwise, we'll be back in a couple minutes. Hey, welcome back. When we were on the break, we actually got a phone call in from Patty. Patty, go ahead with your question.
Yes, I was wondering if homeowners insurance covers a fall in the home where there was injuries.
Pat, was this your home or somebody else's home?
Someone else's home. We'll be going to the orthopedic tomorrow to find out how bad the injuries are.
Okay. Well, Patty, I'm very sorry to hear that you fell and you injured yourself. Again, I hate to say it, but the answer is really it depends. I mean, it can be covered by homeowners. If there was some hazard or some dangerous condition in the home that caused you to fall, then the homeowner could be liable for that. But even if there was no dangerous condition, you just fell, sometimes there are types of coverages on a homeowner's policy called MedPay. And MedPay is an automatic medical benefit that can help you offset your medical bills. Yeah, it could. It absolutely could be something that is covered on our homeowners, but it really is very fact specific. But that's something we can certainly help you out with if you want to give us a call, and we'll do everything we can to help you. Johnny, do you have any thoughts on that?
No, you nailed it. It just really depends on the facts, what happened.
All right, well, very good. Well, Patty, thank you for that call. I hope you're able to get that treatment, and like I said, if we can help you out, just give us a call. All right, so we're at the tail end. Let's do some shout outs. Who you want to say hi to?
I want to say hello to a lot of my staff back in Baton Rouge, including my wife watching us tonight, and I also want to give a big shout out to Larry Perry for always inviting me on the show. I really enjoy it, so I appreciate Perry and Young, and have a great working relationship with y'all. Y'all are awesome.
Appreciate it, man. I always love having you, Johnny. I want to give a shout out to my good friend, Miss Pam, my mom and my dad. Donna and Bruce are watching us at home. My friends Nick and Lauren. My man Rick at the Marlin, faithful watcher. Thanks for tuning in, buddy. And see who else? Mr. Gary Starr is tuned in. G Money is in the house. And let's see, my wife, my kids. School starts tomorrow. That's my closing remarks. School starts tomorrow. School buses are going to be on the road. Give yourself a few extra minutes when you're traveling to work. Be safe out there. There's going to be kids at bus stops. Pay attention. Put the phone down. Have a nice, easy drive into school or work, and everybody be safe. And I hope you all have a great weekend.
I better give a shout out to my kids, unless it's already too over. But anyway, I have 3 kids. They're all in school. So shout out to them. Hopefully they're watching tonight.
Perfect. Y'all have a good night.
Thank you.